you. Dr. Poon, Tourism Intelligence International. It's a little bit unfortunate that the travel and tourism industry is getting a lot of the blame for the climate change, when the travel and tourism industry has the potential to really do so much about it. We talk about climate change and travel and tourism, and the airlines get beaten and everybody else. And when we look at mitigation measures, a lot of them are focusing on energy and energy reduction. But I think while those are necessary, they're not sufficient. And I think that we need to link the social aspects of it. For example, if a traveler goes to Australia and buys a piece of Aboriginal art, or goes to Sri Lanka and does some Ayurvedic treatment or so, what is the carbon footprint of that? What is the impact? Is it offsetting? Can we not develop measures that certainly demonstrate to customers and to people that when they take those activities, they actually offset the environment because of the impact on the local communities and people and the environment and all of those other things? With regard to the United States and customers, it's really a little bit unfortunate that the industry there is so behind and so really missing the boat. When you talk about the industry being focused on repairing the image rather than repairing the climate, you'll find more and more that both are really the same. And at the same time in the United States, there are companies like Starbucks that's doing so much, not only in corporate social responsibilities and saving planet Earth. They're providing funds for the farmers to invest. They are recycling coffee beans. They're producing $10 bags to give to customers to compost. They have a situation called, commuter mugs, so that if you bring your own mug, you can get a cup of coffee. They are leading best practice. And while the travel and tourism industry has been so keen on following all of the mass tourism best practices of the last industry, we are really behind in terms of some of the leading practices. And the question is, what can we do today to ensure that the industry really starts to lead best practice and to do what it really can? Because right now we are focusing on towels and so, but we need an integrated approach. Because if a hotel right now recycles towels or looks after the air conditioning, is it really enough? And I think that we can learn from a lot of other industries and their best practices and how we can really become ahead of the game with regard to climate change. So thank you.
There's a question here that you're putting in a sense. How much is it to do with governments and how much is it to do with the tourism industry itself to regulate its own industry in terms of best practices?
Also.
That's a very good point, because the social impact of bringing your carbon with you on the destinations is enormous. But I think it's, like you said, it's not being addressed properly. And I think that the NGOs who are members of the WTO can do something about it. We are developing projects in Guatemala, for example, where we encourage the travelers to bring their carbon credit with them and buy trees and plant them with the local Maya communities, so that we can actually see where your carbon credit's going, rather than giving it to some anonymous, but obviously very good carbon sequestration outfit in the north. You should bring your carbon sequestration with you and plant it at the point of origin. So that's a very, very good point.
I was going to say, what you said is very true, but there's a dichotomy. Now, if you take the market, UK, they are very sensitive, long stays. The group travel, is going away, and they're becoming much more individual travelers, and contributing. The interaction element is very high as compared to some of the other destinations. But at the same time, on the other side, Prime Minister Brown was able to slap the tax also because of that awareness that is there. So there is a dichotomy in all of this. And I think that's something we got to address also, from at the destination level. And I agree with you that one of the things that the Earth-Lung initiative would take on is this challenge to show what the carbon footprints are in each of these. So join the community.
And just to go back to that point again, looking at the importance of this in the developing world, as Jeffrey Lippman pointed out, a few years ago, in just one country like Ethiopia, which certainly needs a lot of development assistance, it only gets 63,000 real tourists a year. If we can double the number of tourists that go to Ethiopia, it will meet its economic Millennium Development Goals. That's how important it is in the developing world. And that's what we think we should be focusing on, more on that and more on the people who are going to benefit from it the most and who also stand the most to lose if the mitigation effects don't include their interests at heart.
So having been 20 years as a lobbyist representing this industry, there's only one thing I can guarantee out of the climate change debate, and that's if we as an industry don't do something to change our habits as an industry, it will be done for us. It will be done by political pressure. It will be done by consumer pressure. And I've always had a view, better that we decide which little digit to take off and have somebody else lop off the whole limb. And I just hope there's an economic and moral argument to drive that. But there'll be an economic and regulatory reality if we don't.